Hi everyone, Duke Danger here. Today I want to talk about a game that's story-driven, Hitman Absolution. A game that surprised me with the amount of story in it. And basically, it all revolves around a little girl that for some reason 47 decides he really likes, even though he points a gun at her the first time he meets her and threatens her. And, all of a sudden he has feelings, which confused the life out of me. The only other time he had feelings was in the second game, Silent Assassin, where he felt very strongly for a vicar. Who knows what was going on in that department? Regardless, Hitman Absolution is a pretty good game. They've changed only one mechanic, and that's the map. The map made things a little too easy, I will admit that, especially in Blood Money, the easiest of the franchise. This game's a little harder. You have sort of like what I can only describe as eagle vision from Assassin's Creed, the first one, not the crap ones. Um, and everybody that's a target blows, basically. Um, you've got to avoid being seen, well, you don't have to, but you can choose to. There are multiple ways to do every level. Each level is quite long. There are only 12 levels, though. And one thing that I thought was very lacking in this game was the variety that was available in the previous ones. I mean, Hitman Contracts, for example, had a great range of variety. At one point, you are at a Meat King's party, which is just a big meat packing plant. Next thing, you're in the Arctic tundra, or the Russian tundra anyway. But no, Hitman Absolution sort of puts you in three different locations: Chicago, um, South Dakota, and Chicago again. Um, and to be quite honest, none of them are very interesting areas. Chicago is just buildings and cities. You do go to Chinatown in Chicago, and there is a pretty cool level set on Chinese New Year in Chicago with a huge crowd, which was actually very impressive to see because unlike games like Assassin's Creed, where they could only render massive crowds if you couldn't interrupt them or interact with them in any way, each single person in this crowd, there's probably about 200 people in the crowd you can interact with, or they each move independently of themselves. They are all pre-rendered as a single entity in themselves instead of just a crowd entity. Um, and it's very impressive. The engine itself is very impressive as well, actually. The ragdoll physics aren't completely batshit insane anymore, and people move in a realistic way. Although a lot of the game is still waiting, what I found I was doing with Blood Money is staring at the map for 5 minutes at the beginning of every level, working out patterns and seeing where that could just nip through without doing anything to anybody, apart from the target, of course. This game rewards you for doing certain things. It gives you points, a sort of arcadey style thing. I'm not sure what they were hoping to achieve with that, but it didn't really add much to the single player. You had the ratings, of course, but there were so many things that impacted the ratings, it became a little confusing. I mean, in some missions you had to kill a target in a certain way, or do certain things. You got points for going through without leaving your suit, and for wearing every suit you can find. It was, I guess it's sort of a cheap way to get people to play it more than once, which I'm going to anyway because I actually really liked the game and I like the story. David Bateman as the Hitman again, a great voice, probably the best voice ever, and also one of the Carradine brothers, the one that didn't kill himself asphyxie wanking. Um, but no, I think it's a great game. In terms of the story, I was a little confused about his feelings towards this little girl. I was also confused about the little girl in itself. I mean, she was a genetically engineered super soldier, which is what they said 47 was, but I always thought that he wasn't genetically engineered any more than he was a clone. I thought that was as far as it went. He was a clone of a soldier, and that was about it. But regardless, who am I to question Square Enix? Um, they do reference Kane and Lynch, bizarrely. It's like they want to remind everybody of how shit they were until they released this. Um, and you see Kane in a number of places. You listen to the opening of Kane, the speech Kane gives, and the beginning of the first Kane and Lynch game, the letter to his daughter, that sort of thing, when you're in a prison. But it doesn't really fit too well because he's on about being on death row, but this isn't a federal prison, it's just a jail in a small town in South Dakota. So, each to their own, I suppose. But no, that was a little odd. It was sort of like a nod going, go on, you know you want to play this again. We know it's terrible, but give us more money, please. Just buy the damn game. But no, all it did was remind me of how much I hated that game. So, no, sorry Square Enix, I'm not buying anything from you. Anyway, yeah, Hitman, he's old now, a little bit older. But there's an odd thing. They've put a plaster over tattoo on the back of his head. I'm sure anyone who played the played the demo, or had played the game knows this. But there's a very brief scene where it looks like he's cut the tattoo off his head. But in truth, you never actually see what he's done until the sequel, because there will be one, because they ended it in the same way. I thought only shit companies like Bungie ended games by saying, yeah, we're totally going to make a sequel, guys. Which is shit. It didn't annoy me as much as the Assassin's Creed ones did, because it wasn't so blatantly obvious, and there was an actual beginning, middle, and an end to this instead of just a beginning and a middle, and then the sequel's just a middle and then just an end. It was a full contained story, so there's no need to worry about that. For some reason, though, and this did bug me a little bit about the story, is 47 has loads of friends that all know him as Agent 47. I mean, how fucking subtle is this guy if he's been going around to tailors and things going, hi, my name's Agent 47, make me a cool suit? I mean, they don't even know him under a pseudonym, they just know him as Agent 47. Which, confused the life out of me. No one... I mean, they even say in this game, if you listen to one of the conversations between one of the big bad guys, a guy called something Dexter, who's an arms trader, or arms baron, regardless, that's not important. He even says Hitman has never spoken to anyone until he met you, to the little girl. But now Hitman's going around and just saying, hi, remember me? Yeah, we used to hang out all the time. You made my suit, remember? And it just sort of came across as a bit weird to me. Another thing that was a bit weird that I've never experienced in a Hitman game before was some of the choices in camouflage you can wear. At one point, because I thought it would be funny, and it really was, I found some ancient samurai armour in this apartment. So I thought, you know what, fuck it. So I pulled my guns out and walked back through the house and killed everyone as a samurai assassin. Which did look quite entertaining. Somewhat, but then again, I'm just sad and have no friends, so I guess maybe that's why. The shooting is alright, pretty standard for a Hitman game, except they took inspiration from Splinter Cell Conviction, of all things, where you can tag multiple targets and then shoot them in slow motion. And every time it hits their head, it slows down a bit, whether you're sniping, aiming with a pistol, whatever, it slows down for a little bit just so you can look at it and go, yeah, I totally shot them in the head, because that's where I was fucking aiming. I don't know why the game has to show you that they got hit in the head. But no, all in all, I really enjoyed it, actually. 5 days to complete, and played it every day, sometimes not for very long. But it's not the longest game. I think a lot of effort went into the contract side of things, the sort of pseudo-online mode whereby people can create their own contracts and you can go and compete with them, and you can kill the fastest or the easiest or whatever. And that's not bad, in all honesty. It's the only way you can upgrade your guns. They did away with the upgrading gun situation, but I guess you didn't really need it. It was pretty much point A to point B, carry on with the story game, but a lot of stealth involved if that was the way you wanted to play it. Otherwise you could just run through like a madman, stab people or shoot people or whatever. A few accidental deaths, they've added a few new bits. If you hide two people in a closet, for instance, it looks like they're bum fucking. I guess that's sort of like IO's humour all over, really. But no, I would say buy it, and then buy it again. It is a good game, and it does have some quality acting. A slightly confusing plot if you know the other Hitman games and if you're used to the 47 character, but still an entertaining game in its own right. Hopefully they'll add more variety to the levels in the sequel, otherwise it will just be a bit gay. Yeah, gay. Anyway, that's all I've got to say about that one. My next review has been sort of requested as Dishonored, so that will be my next one. Another long review. Sorry, I just ramble these days. I should really get back on track with that. Duke Danger.